I'd like to call EDC to order. We got Justin Tiersch. Patricia, are you here? Patricia? Okay, Greg? Cody. All EDC is here. Thank you.
I'd like to call P&Z, Planning and Zoning, to order. If you could all just say your names. Ashley Zimmerman's here.
Jacqueline Garcia is here.
Terry Hines here.
And Jen will be late, but she should be here shortly.
Christy Ellard here.
Mark Shoup here.
Carol Herr here.
Shane Merlett here.
Ashley Zimmerman here.
Cody Hicks here.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. Marcus Manley here.
Thank you. Anyone else from Master Plan? Okay, well, we can go ahead and get started. Okay. Okay. All right, so we're going to move to agenda item number 3, moment of silence, invocation. Councilman Hicks will do the invocation, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for today. Thank you for this much, much needed rain that you have provided us today and over the last week. Let us join together with all of our minds, the creative minds, the different minds, and put those minds together to do the best plan we can for the future of the city of Cibolo. Watch out for our first responders and our military personnel. And these things we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, next up is citizens to be heard. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, sorry. Moving on to a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, moving on to number 5, citizens to be heard. And Peggy, did you say you had one write-in? Do we have anybody in person, Peggy?
No, I have none.
Okay, just one email. Okay, thank you.
Okay. This email is from Austin Schlatter. He says, Master Plan Committee. First, I'd like to thank you. I better put on my glasses. Master Plan Committee. First, I'd like to thank you guys for taking time to build the future plans for our city. If you don't know by now, downtown Cibolo is growing and will continue to grow, and a plan for downtown is very important along with the host city. If there is one obvious problem with downtown, it's parking. For any business going into downtown Cibolo, parking requirements from the UDC are almost impossible to meet with houses that bump right up to the road. It makes it easier for businesses to come in and join our downtown area for our own events. We already run like Market Days, Cibolo Fest. I'd like to propose the idea for us to turn the field behind the new annex building into a parking lot, just like Green has done for their businesses. There's a gravel parking lot to park in and walk to whatever businesses they'd like Doesn't have to be a gravel, but the parking spaces make it easy for customers to come to the area. This parking could also have a QR code to pay for parking that could increase revenue for the city. This would help our speedy growth to a smooth process and bring a lot of value to downtown. Thank you.
And who was the author of
That was Austin Schlatter.
Austin Schlatter? Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Peggy. All right, our next agenda item is discussion action items, discussion presentation by Kimley Horn regarding an update to the city's comprehensive master plan and IH-10 corridor plan, including welcome and introductions, IH-10 corridor strategic vision and strategic direction, mobility, future land use, and next steps.
All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on this rainy Monday, but we're happy to have it, right? For those I haven't had a chance to meet, my name's Kelsey Jordan Lee. I am the Director for Planning and Economic Development here at the City of Cibolo. I want to take a quick second and just recognize all of our other staff members who are here. We have Wayne Reed, our City Manager, Peggy Simics, our City Secretary, Brian Huggins, our Executive Director for Safety and Infrastructure. We have Susana Huerta, our Assistant Director for Planning, and Lindsay Walker, one of our other planners. And then I also want to take a moment, since our last master plan meeting, we did have a new hire in our planning department for our senior planner position, and that's really the individual who is spearheading our internal project management of our comprehensive master plan, of the corridor plan, and all of these long-range plans that the city's undertaking this year and next year. And that is Aaron Spencer. Eric is waving real quick. There we go. Welcome. And so Aaron comes with a great background in planning. He previously had served in both the cities of Alamo Heights and then also the city of Bulverde. So he's no stranger to growth and development and how to do that in a smart and sustainable way. And so you might be seeing his name pop up in future communications, and I just wanted you to have a face to put with that name. We have a pretty packed agenda if you had a chance to look through that workbook that's there. And so I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Daniel Acevedo with Kimley Horn, who's going to lead us through a little bit of background, how we got to here today, and then what we're going to try to accomplish before we're done.
Thank you, Kelsey. All right, the first thing we wanted to do today, real quickly, is just introduce my team to you. Let me see. Again, my name is Daniel Acevedo. I'm here with my team. We have Ignacio Mejia here. We also have Haley Carruthers. They're in the back. We've got Jay Gunkust and Jenny Lai. We also have Stephen Knoll and also Zeke. He's out in the welcome area. So thanks again for having us. We're really excited again about where we are in the process and all the things that we have done to really hear from your community. We've done a lot of outreach and had a community summit over the summer. And really your packet and your workbook is a compilation of all the information that we heard from your community. Today what we wanted to do is cover several critical items with you and move the dialogue forward, taking into account all of the feedback that we've heard, but really workshop with you to gain some strategic direction on particular components that are very important to the process. The first one has to deal with the IH-10 corridor. So we'll look at that from a land use perspective and from other like mobility and those types of things. We will also kind of look at all the strategic direction and have some workshop items on, if you remember the last time we went over the vision for the plan, we also went over some of the goals for the plan. So really just rounding that conversation out and finalizing it. We also have a mobility portion where we're dealing with roadways and infrastructure. And then finally, we'll have an activity on future land use. And so, again, that's really the purpose of this meeting tonight, is to workshop with you. I think you've noticed we have you in different groups around the table so that we can kind of have the brain trust come together and work together as a team. We have facilitators that will be available to you, so if there are any questions that come up along the way. And really the format, and I'm speaking without slides here, the format is each activity will have an introduction where we go through what we're trying to have you do. We'll have about 15 to 20 minutes to workshop together, and then we'll have a recap, someone in your group to kind of talk through some of the high points from each activity. Of course, we're documenting all of your feedback tonight, so don't feel like if there's something we missed that you weren't able to talk about, it will be documented. We ask you that you put your names on your workbooks. Unfortunately, we have to keep them because we want all that good input and feedback. If someone does want a workbook to take home, we have a couple extra copies if you just wanted to take a hard copy with you. But please, on your workbooks, put your name on it, and at the end, we'll go ahead and collect those from you. So the first activity today, and again, we'll just dive right in because we want to use your time as best as we can, has to deal with the IH-10 corridor. We've had several touch points with your community, but a couple major ones with your EDC steering committee and also with the community at the last open house. From that feedback, and you've seen this in your packet, we received a lot of input on what the future vision for the IH-10 corridor is. We do have a future land use map from 2022 that was updated with us here just for reference. I think it's around here somewhere. We'll make sure we put it up, but you can kind of see the direction that we were headed. If you remember, it's mostly commercial and industrial. And so again, we went through the exercise of saying, is this still the vision? What are the opportunities that we have along the corridor? How can we best use the land? And what we'll do, and you'll see a very colorful map here. What we've done through the process of public engagement is we really identified 3 separate sub-districts along the corridor that have a different place, a different meaning along the corridor. So on the left-hand side, on the west side, it's more of a commercial corridor. In the central side, it's more about jobs and entertainment. And then on the right-hand or the eastern side, it's more of a mixed-use district with residential supporting that. So that's the feedback that we've heard. That's what this diagram comes from. What we are going to ask you to do today is follow these 3 instructions, and we'll keep these up for you, but we can have our facilitators go ahead and go to your stations. The first thing that we want you to do is discuss with your group and decide what you agree with or what you would change, and then cover questions. And here's some examples of questions. What does the map cover correctly or capture correctly? What is missing? So what are the elements that we're missing, some opportunities that might not be captured on that map? And then what other elements are important? So those types of things. You'll have about, again, 15 to 20 minutes to come up with feedback on those maps, and then we'll discuss them as a group. So we'll go ahead and get into our first activity. And so, again, the facilitators, we can go ahead and begin that discussion. We do have hard copies of those maps that we'll be putting on your table so that you can see them. One more thing, we do have markers, and we would love if you could just mark up on these large maps. If you could just take a big marker, and if you have any feedback, go ahead and write them on the map themselves, and then we can discuss them. That's what those big, thick markers are all about. And don't worry about color, don't worry about penmanship. We just want your comments on the maps.
There are 3 major districts that we kind of identified. Okay. Each of them kind of tell a different story, whether that is using more residential area, which would be this over here. The middle is more of an employment sector, and this one over here is more commercial, entertainment, and retail.
And that's between Hickerville and Bolton, right?
Yes.
Is where the commercial would be?
Yes. Okay. So there is commercial scattered out through all of it, of course. Just I would say, purpose of each district is a little bit different.
And where is what's that called? Where the AW factory is? Santa Clara Road.
Yeah, Stoll Creek.
So it's Santa Clara is what I'm looking for.
Okay.
Is that called out on the map? Okay, right here. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Can you write that on here? Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, whatever color.
AW. Let's put a big AW.
Yeah, whatever.
Thank you. All right.
So I guess maybe my first question is kind of dissecting this piece by piece. Let's start with kind of how we laid out.
All right. Real quick, if I can interrupt, let's keep in mind that the maps are not showing zoning. This isn't zone. These aren't zoning categories.
Yeah.
We're talking about the character
I
of
could
the
see
district.
Some retail over here.
Okay, so those categories are not
I
zoning.
want to get everyone
They're
else.
generally the
Joel
predominant
talking, so we can
character
just
of
kinda
the
go around
district.
the table if you want to start, Norma.
I've already done this with them.
Okay.
With EDC, I sat down with them already, so y'all talk
What-
about it.
Okay. What do you think? Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Tell me what y'all have talked about so far.
I mean, because you guys are sort of the economic development. I mean, it's going to be, and then it's going to end up. What does the landowners? Are they going to sell out and allow this to happen? Or are we just saying you're going to do this?
Plus, it has to be annexed into the city to be
Yeah.
done, and it's cheaper not to annex.
Yeah.
So out of curiosity, these stars, what do they represent? Like the intersections? Is
Key
that
intersection,
what,
yeah.
Okay, so that's going to be where you can go east and west.
Yeah,
Because
so
here where AW is, right, you actually pass it.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I actually just came in to town today and we went to go look at I-10 and I didn't realize how bad of a connection problem it is until I drove it physically. So we identified some just, like these are the most, to what we're seeing, important key intersections that should be prioritized. Not saying that there are other intersections that we should be thinking about, but just what we've heard from a safety aspect, these are the ones that we really would like to focus on and help enhance.
And so I know TxDOT is doing a lot of work on I-10 in this section.
Yeah.
And so it would be nice if we had their plan, to kind of overlay on top of this, so that way we know, what.
We've done it here in the next year.
Yeah, because
Then it moves towards New Braunfels.
right, they're going all the way from 130, which is that toll road that goes all the way up to Austin, to 1604. So basically, we're right there in that middle spot. And so anyway. TxDOT's doing a lot of changes, so I'd like to see like their vision. You know what I mean? Like I know that they're doing a new bridge for us at Santa Clara Road and I-10. So Santa Clara and I-10 will be like turnarounds on both sides. You know what I mean? So that way you can do those U-turns. You know what I mean? And it's real convenient. So that would be like our main. That would be what's I call a key intersection would be Santa Clara and I-10.
The city. Yes. So how do they go in and say, I want that, I can't have that, I want
Which
that?
is right here where the AW is. This might be mislabeled. This actually might be Santa Clara instead of Stolte, I think. Let me grab a. Well, never mind. We'll just put that down as a. We'll just put that in the parking lot. You know what I mean? It's something to investigate later. Okay. I would go grab Joel, but he's busy with his own stuff. But he's like kind of the expert of this area. He drives over there all the time. You know what I
Ryan does my
mean?
insurance, Ryan Tackett. His mom lives up in over here. I mean, and they ain't.
My best friend growing up lives right
So what do you think?
So I have some questions.
right here.
Uh-huh.
So are we
Off of Valley
three
View,
different
right down the street
points,
from.
or is it we're trying to pick which is the best access point?
Well, I think we're trying to deal with what we have right now, and then also what TxDOT's going to give us. You know what I mean? Because we're kind of in a position where we kind of have to take what we get. You know what I mean?
Right, I understand that, but I guess these are.
This is going to be your best entrance point right in here is
This could be-
Hakerville. Yeah. Because it's the only road that I think has been redone up to this point.
Yeah. Hakerville's being redone.
It's not like got sidewalks and all that on it, but it actually is drivable. Most roads are not.
So, and this makes sense if this is going to be primarily retail, right?
Yeah.
Commercial.
Because that way the rest of Cibolo can just take Hakerville. Once it's done, it'll be done in December. And so therefore the rest of the north side of our city could use this as their access way to get over here to the entertainment. And over here would be the industrial, which is where we got AW, and then we'll see.
That's basically
And
how we
then
laid it out. is
some
you
other
keep
good stuff.
industrial over there that brings revenue to the city, plus you have commercial that brings revenue, but that brings in
Yeah.
big money.
The only trouble with Hakerville is it kind of dead ends right here.
And then I don't do it.
You know, like when Hakerville dead ends, like you got to go left. You know what I mean? Like there's not a way.
Oh, so you can't go across.
No.
So you take a left, you
No.
go up here to Trainer Hill,
I know,
then you
right?
cross over and you can go down, and you get back on to go down and come back.
So it would be pretty convoluted. You know what I mean? For people to come down here and go.
Well, it needs to be two-way.
Used to be.
they would-
They're getting rid of that.
Well, they would come down here and then take the side road right here
Yeah.
and come out over here.
Yeah.
What's that road called?
Bolton.
Bolton. So they would
Okay.
come down and
Yeah, I
take
see what you're
Bolton
saying.
over.
So if they take Hickerville, take a ride on Bolton, and then come down here. Yeah. Take a right.
Yeah, take a
okay.
left,
Take a
and
left
go
there.
down.
Okay. So if we're doing that, you could also have stuff off Bolton too.
I
Stuff for
looked at
people to do.
buying, there's 50 acres right here, right off of Bolton Road, but they had already split out this property and then another property in the back, and so it had like a dog leg in this back here because this is going to develop, but there's no city sewer services out there, and it just sort of cut it up to where I walked. It's a nice house, but
Yeah.
I was going to commercialize it.
How many acres?
30. It was 50, and now it's down to like 35 or something.
If it's got I-10 frontage, you should scoop it
It's
up.
not. No, it's not frontage.
Oh, just
It's-
Bolton?
It's Bolton.
Okay.
I guess what part of this do you think is working well? In terms
The only
of
thing
what
the only thing that's really been developed is right there, AW Texas, and then
bridge
this
open?
bridge that's coming. Because I think this is mislabeled. This should actually be Santa Clara, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Stolte Roads is over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Stolte Road,
Stolte here in a big.
this should be Stolte Road right here. Yeah, that's Santa Clara, this is Stolte.
Okay.
Gotcha. I think it does. I think it's one of the dual lane roads, right?
Okay.
So it's Stolte down here, but as you come up here, it's.
Gotcha. Okay.
No, no, it's Santa Clara all the way. This is Stolte Road right here.
Okay, so it's over here, so that's what it is.
So maybe put Santa Clara there too.
Santa Clara's that whole way from 78 to I-10.
Because you can see.
And then this one's Stolte,
Yeah, this is Stolte right here.
and then we just write Stolte there.
I know you can get off of I-10 and then take that road all the way to 78.
Okay.
So from the framework plan, this is what the future of this corridor could look like. What do you think this is capturing well that you think would be successful here in this corridor?
Well, the bridge right here that allows people to to turn around, like this would be right here. This corner right here would be an excellent location for I even called Beaver Alpin about putting a Buc-ee's right there. I think it would be fantastic. So if we could just try to keep working on Beaver and try to get a Buc-ee's right there, that'd be huge.
Yeah. So that is nice level. And that does go across. So that's actually the only one that's sort of like a main. Yeah. But it doesn't. That
Yeah,
goes to
I think
Mary.
the thought process was we always try to
Property on Mary.
transition residential from a industrial kind of oriented road. So as I-10 is right now and how it's kind of going, it's a pretty heavy arterial. So we wouldn't necessarily want to put your typical single family right next to the highway. So we thought about transitioning it to maybe a little bit more mixed use where you could potentially have an office center with something that still fits the character of Cibolo and fits the character of single family, but when I say density, not high-rise buildings, but something that is more dense than a single family.
The people who already live, there are
Yeah.
the people who already live, what's going to happen?
Yeah, we don't want to show anything that makes them feel like we're asking them to leave. The more point is when we're looking at corridors, wherever you look, development does count. Whether they want to sell the land or not sell the land, we're thinking more 50 years into the future, not 5 years. So this is also giving them an opportunity to see.
We've got about 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Five minutes. 5 minutes.
There we go.
All right, that concludes our time for group activities. That concludes our time. Sorry? All right. We're gonna close the group discussion. If you all could pick one person to represent your group, if you could pick one person to represent your group, we're gonna go around the room, and we're gonna talk about 3 big takeaways from the exercise. 3 takeaways from the exercise. So think about your top 3 things that we are discussing. We are aware about the Stolte Road issue. We are aware about that. All right. We're going to start with table 1. Table 1, if you could tell us your 3 big takeaways, your 3 big discussion points.
Okay.
So the way we were looking at this,
I can hear you.
Is it on? Oh, no, it's on. The way we're looking at this is how it's set up on here, the commercial, the manufacturing, and then you have the urban residential, that if we did it this way, we could put housing for the people, that if we brought this to fruition, we had affordable housing for the people that worked all these, because we don't have a lot of that here in Cibolo for industries like this. And then if we bring in more manufacturing, that would bring in the need for restaurants, places to stay, entertainment, all that for the businesses that are there working. What else do we have? Oh yeah, the multifamily we talked about in the urban residential area. That way it is for better, like not low income, but more medium, affordable income housing to bring the people that work these jobs in, because $300,000 house, $400,000 house in Cibolo is not affordable for a single person making $50,000, $60,000 a year. And what else do we have? And then the infrastructure. And then we had the infrastructure over off of between Line and Santa Clara, because on the map it's labeled as Stolte Road, which is wrong. It's actually Santa Clara. And if we put in credible infrastructure for all of this, when we bring in big corporations, then we can really get a ball rolling with bigger industries, industrial, manufacturing, whatever we can bring, which would take us right into the commercial part of it too. But that's our 3 takeaways.
All right, excellent. Good discussion. Thank you, thank you. All right, group 2, table 2, you're next.
Okay, so our group immediately identified some of the things that we didn't like, and then we kind of moved through the rest of the questions. So some of the things identified that we didn't agree with were the priority thoroughfares, being Hagerville, Stolte, and Lenny. All 3 of those priority thoroughfares, those roads don't have the right-of-way. The city doesn't own the right-of-way, so it will take a lot of acquisition in order to widen those to be priority thoroughfares to get all the way to I-10 or to be intended to be a primary thoroughfare. Granted, some of that can happen over time as development happens in the area by requiring the developers to grant the city the right-of-way by plat. So it doesn't cost the city money, but if you went out and acquired all of those the front of the properties, it would be exponential amount of money, specifically for 3 different roads. Stolte is currently like just a backcountry road, and Lenny is also about the same. We were pretty good with the green space or open space that's near the creeks and trails. Most of that's in the floodplain and can't be developed, so that made sense to us. The entertainment area, we had quite a bit of a discussion about. We thought maybe that would be a good place for some sort of sports complex. There are some cities around us that have really nice sports complexes that get rented out to, select teams, or ideally, I mean, you could go one step ahead and think sports complex for like a minor league baseball or something like that to bring in a team to live here in Cibolo, kind of like what we did with the soccer team, but I don't think that lasted very long. What else did we talk about? We were good with the commercial space between Hagerville and Stolte, and we liked the idea of the density in the residential, starting with the most dense closer to I-10 and then moving out and getting less dense. It makes sense to have the higher density housing closer to the highways. What were you pointing at?
All right.
Oh, we wanted to see more parks and what we.
All right, I think that's 3.
Yes, the last thing that we saw was a weakness. Was a weakness with the knowledge that we have with the property owners that live in this area here between 78 and I-10, and the unlikeliness that they'll be selling anytime soon. I know that a lot of people say along 1103 developed and those people sold, but these are they're hard-headed, and they're legacy owners. They want to stay where they are, and I don't feel like we should necessarily cause or make them, move out for any reason. If it's up to if it's their decision, that's fine.
All right, thank you so
Did I
much.
cover everything?
That's great. So one thing came up that I think we need to think through today, if possible. We've identified some north-south connections, and we heard that they might not be the most ideal north-south connections. If they're not, are there other north-south connections that we can take advantage of? Please remember, this is a 30-year plan. So even if they're country roads today, in 30 years they may not be. And so this is the bridge between now and 30 years from now. How do we get there? How can we put it on a map? Some of these connections are already on a map, already on a thoroughfare plan. And so it's dealing with the difficult issues of today and how do we get there until tomorrow. So let's think about that. If there are any suggestions, maybe we can mark those down as well. We'll go on to table number 3.
I appreciate that, Shane. All right. We've identified a few things. I know that the drag strip is there, but it's been sold off. We're hoping that it'll make a comeback, but don't know if that'll happen. The racetrack. We noticed that this was labeled wrong. Stolte Road is right here by fire station number 4. There's 1,700 homes going in here. And we were looking at this entertainment area in this area. So because you already have entertainment here with the go-kart track. So we're looking at this as entertainment along with possibly putting some apartments in to accommodate the people that work here at the Ison and possibly any of these other business companies that are looking to come into Cibolo. Mixed use, we're looking down closer towards the Cibolo Creek to be able to have it mixed use because you've got the parklands there to where you could have creek. But you want, something else is we've got a lot of residential, as Ms. Zimmerman mentioned. A lot of these legacy owners, we don't want to push them out, but I know that a lot of these individuals are looking to stay farming land for the time being, but you got a lot of residential and ag life in this area currently. What else do we got here, guys? Just the apartments, yeah. Somewhere along the Santa Clara in that area. So that's what we've got.
All right, perfect. Thank you. We've noted Santa Clara. We know that one is key, so we'll make sure that we make that correction. Thank you so much. I've noticed in a few of our tables that we're not just sticking to the general overall character. We're not just, if it's commercial, we're not just stopping there, but we're looking at, okay, if that's the identity of the area, what other things can complement that? So we're seeing a lot of good complementary uses within each sub-district. So this is good conversation. Let's move on to table number 4.
There were a couple things about the map that we would have liked to seen. Obviously, Santa Clara being labeled as Stolte kind of threw us off. Also, the roads labeled for the access off and on I-10, how it's going to end up, where TxDOT actually plans to put those is important. And also, you're asking us to conjecture or make some idea about a road, a north and south road, but you did that to us before, and you didn't abide by the tip or bring to us what the tip was calling out, and we got ourselves into trouble over that with the toll road fiasco. So I think that notifying us on these maps where the tip is, where a future road is already in the works with the MPO, and the exits that are actually going to be there would be critical, because we can't tell from this map.
Okay.
So the other thing that we're looking at is the fire suppression and the infrastructure issues along I-10, there just basically really aren't any available, and so that's a concern to us. And then we were saying that one of the things that's missing from this plat is the Icky sewage treatment plant off of Linney Road. And so we wanted to move the entertainment center as you enter Cibolo from I-10 on this side of the Icky, on the east side of the Icky.
Okay.
And so, and also that wouldn't be a huge amount of having to put sewer lines, and so that might be more attractive to developers as we're looking for our entertainment centers, because the Icky part's right there. So that's, I think that's it, right, guys? Anything else? The entertainment center to the east, yeah. It's a sewage treatment plant.
I thought it was an acronym too.
It means the same as yucky. Yeah.
It is both icky and yucky.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Table 4. We'll make sure to clarify that. I know when we sat down with EDC, we kind of talked through those issues, but you can't see it now, so we'll make sure that those are reflected on the next version of the map. Thank you. Table number 5.
Okay. Yeah. Be Vanna. Okay, so on our map we wrote kind of sideways, so sorry about that. We talked about the different areas that were already laid out, and they kind of went along with what we kind of thought. The first thing that we wanted to add was a community college or a tech school. Community college here, tech school down here close to the industrial area. Community colleges, we don't have one in Guadalupe County. So all of our kids who do dual credit classes have to go through the Bexar County schools or through SAC. They have to pay an out of area fee. If we have one in Guadalupe County, we get the fees for all of the kids in the entire county, not just the ones in Cibolo. So that brings in more income into the city. Plus you can do a tax zoning district for a community college, which would help fund the community college itself and not put it on just residents of Cibolo. By doing that, that would open up this area for apartments. So it's on the border of Bexar County, which is good. It takes a lot of the pressure from those multifamily housing units away from local roads that we have to maintain and puts them onto state roads. So it keeps it all down there on the thoroughfare. We'd have easy access to Seguin, easy access to San Antonio. We'd be able to pull those kids. Northeast Lakeview is great, but it's kind of tricky to get to. So we may even be able to pull some kids from over there depending on which type of community college we get in, or tech school. Waco has a tech school called TSTC, and it's super renowned for its work. They have their graduation rates and jobs right out of graduation are just they're huge. They've actually partnered with Baylor now, and they have their own campus that's a Baylor TSTC combined campus for engineering. And so that's another way that it has brought more business into the area. They've actually attracted industrial because they have that grouping of kids that they can pull in as interns or as learn on the job, and they can actually send their own staff from those industrial areas to the colleges or tech schools to get the certifications that are required. So that was one of the things we talked about. The second thing we talked about was the need for a quality hospital. Right now it's not that easy to get to I-10 because of the back roads that we have to take to get there, but we need a really high quality hospital, kind of like Seton and Kyle, where it's what would you call it? It's like a whole bunch of little hospitals all shoved into one big one. So it's a hospital system. There's the word. Good job. Hospital system. So having something like that off of I-10 again would pull the west side of east side of San Antonio this way. It would pull Seguin and the east side of Guadalupe County this way, and it would be a really good area to have that, especially unfortunately with industrial, where there could be an industrial accident. It'd be nice to have something nearby. We also put some hotels down here. The one that we're thinking about, in addition to just any old hotel, would be a conference center type hotel. There's one in New Braunfels right past the outlet mall. My oldest was a dancer. She had dance conventions every weekend. Those girls are paying $400 or $500 a weekend to go to this dance convention, and there are literally thousands of girls there. Their families stay at the hotels in the area. They eat in the area. They do activities when they're not dancing. So that is a really good pull, not just from dance. Like, there's a lot of other things that you could pull into a convention center. We don't have any of that in our area. They're all very small. That convention center in San Marcos has a lot of separate breakout ballrooms, so you can make one giant ballroom or several smaller ones, but that would be something else. So I'm going to squeeze in two more things. Two other things we wanted to address were the need for an updated FEMA floodplain. A lot of this is really dependent on where the water is. You can't put some of this where the floodplain is. We haven't had an updated floodplain map since about 2007, as far as we can recall. So making sure that we know where that water is going and how it's affecting everything down there is really major. The other thing is the feeder roads or the frontage roads. TxDOT's redoing I-10, which is great, but if we're planning on putting a lot of businesses and things down there that are going to need a lot of exits and entrances onto the feeder, we don't have that. In the current design, there's not as many because they were planning for rural, they weren't planning for industrial. So that would be something that we would need to discuss with TxDOT to make sure that we have proper access. The last thing, I swear, I'm done, is a school district. So we have got two really big high schools. We've got one that's a powerhouse in football. We don't have a stadium. A lot of the other big school districts have stadiums that are stadiums for the entire district. We have Linhoff Stadium that is trying to shove two big high schools into one stadium that was built in, the 60s? It would be smart of us to set aside somewhere either off of 10 or somewhere in this area that is big enough for that, because we would need spaces for parking and we would need spaces for the stadium itself. That stadium, if it was co-owned between the city, and I have no idea if that's even a possibility, but it would be something that the district or the city could rent out to for other uses throughout the year. So after football season is over, you'd have soccer. We could bring in teams to do that. You could do tournaments, all sorts of stuff like that. So no, I know. That's what I'm saying over here in our area. But we have, Shirts is filling in a lot faster than we are, so I think it'd be really smart to look at where the school district properties are and see if one of those might fit. I went to the community something briefing on demographics for the district, and they said they don't plan on building another school for another 10 years, that they don't see a need for it. But if they're not building a school, then maybe that would be an opportunity to start pursuing the idea of a multi-use center for sports. Steel is not stopping anytime soon. They both have really robust sports, not just football, but other sports as well. So it would be an opportunity to carve out a spot for them just so that it's there. Yeah. See? Yeah. So that's just an idea to consider, because it will fill in quickly. We want to make sure that we're in contact with the school district and we know what their plans are for the future and that we know what their needs are for the future. They're saying they don't need a school for 10 plus years. The next school that they need is a junior high. And that's going to be the one off of Wiedner. So they aren't planning on developing this anytime in the next 10 to 15 years. So that's it.
All right, thank you all. Activity number 1 is done. Whew. All right, moving on to activity number 2, and we are barreling through, but we do have a scheduled break. So if we stay on task, we will be able to have our scheduled break. All right, moving on to activity 2. Activity 2 is called Strategic Direction Recap. So in your packets, in your informational packet, you had a recap of all of the public engagement that we have had thus far. So we've had lots of workshops with the public. We have had a lot of input on the website. We've had word clouds built, surveys done, stakeholder interviews were conducted. We've done several SWOT exercises and incorporated that feedback. We've overlaid that feedback and heard in different SWOT analyses several overarching themes, and that's kind of what's captured here on this slide and again in your packet. So hopefully you took the time to review those things. Currently we have about 1,700 views on our website. We've had 422 responses, 72 comments, 31 participants, and 4 subscribers. So over time, you can kind of see that graph of engagement. Right where you see it peaking is right where we had most of our public engagement events, where we were at public events letting people know about the website, about the project. We had another spike here in early August as well. We did another push and another community event. And so you kind of see every time we have a community event, every time we promote, that number jumps back up. So what we'll do here is we'll get into the strategic direction. There are 3 things that we're going to be covering in the next 15 minutes, so we're going to ask that you move quickly through each segment, especially the first few segments, because you've already had time to give us input and feedback on the vision statement. You've already given us input on the guiding principles, and really what we need today is you to give us direction on actions and goals. So you can see where the ultimate vision is for the plan, you can see how they translate to goals, and now we need action behind those goals. So if you can kind of get through, just review quickly what we have for the final vision statement. There's a few different options, circle whichever one you like, and then get into the guiding principles, and then of course get to the actions. And so we'll go ahead and we'll hand you over to your groups. Go ahead and work through. Now this information is in your workbook, so if you can turn in your workbook to activity 2, you'll have those questions there so that you can review them. Thank you. Please remember when you're reviewing the vision statement, there may be phrases that are no good. Cross those out. There may be phrases you love. Circle those. Highlight them. We'll make a combination of all the stuff you like, and we'll get rid of all the stuff you don't like. All right, if we're still on strategic vision statement, we probably should move on to the next section.
The most important thing is vision right
8:10.
now. If we could set the
We
vision.
can get to 8:10.
That's it.
I think we're good. We're going on time right now.
Yeah, I told him at 7:45.
Because those didn't take 5 minutes. They took like 3-ish.
Yeah, and you did great, keeping them forward, so that's good. And I told him at 7:45, so you may just say you have about 5 minutes to get all through your activities.
Testing. All right, we've got about 5 minutes left. 5 minutes left. Let's get to our action items. Action items. Surprise, you have an extra 5 minutes. 5 minutes extra. Please remember, we're working citywide. We're looking citywide now. The first activity was focused on the corridor, but now we are focusing city and countywide. All right, we're getting ready to wrap up. Closing thoughts. Yes, coming up. All right. Wrapping up activity two. We're gonna mix up the format this time. We're gonna go backwards. Table 5 will be the first to speak this time. Table 5, you're going first. What we're gonna do with these activities, since there were 3 major kind of details, we're gonna just pick one. Just pick one, whichever one you all talked about the most, maybe. Whether it's vision statement, whether it's the goals, or whether it's the action items, and tell us kind of a couple big takeaways from your discussion as a group. Table 5 is first. I think they're deciding what to cover.
So we're going to talk about the vision statements. We looked at the 4 vision statements. And we liked number 4 the best. We felt that number 1 was too wordy and sounded a little pretentious. And if the vision statement is supposed to be what we want Cibolo to feel like, it didn't feel like Cibolo. It felt like Cibolo trying to be Highland Park or something. Option 2, we also didn't like. I'm not alone in saying I don't like the city of choice. It's a slogan. It doesn't make sense. For the city of choice of what? For what? What does choice mean? I don't get it. So I have never liked that statement. So that one kind of threw me off with that as well. Number 3, it says a small town Texas charm. We don't really have small town Texas charm. We're a small town, but we've lost, unfortunately, a lot of that charm through the growth and development. So we want to get that back. And we felt that option 4 felt like we're a welcoming community, it's home, and we're trying to get back some of that charm and that culture that may have been lost or buried through other stuff. The historic roots. We talked a lot about historic roots and what that meant, because while we have history, it's kind of not displayed. Like, we don't have a lot of the history out there. I know when we were developing our city's vision statement, historic roots was something we wanted to include. And when we were making decisions on things moving forward, like parks, how do we incorporate the history of Cibolo in those parks? When we do events, like we have our historic committee, when we do events, how are we incorporating Cibolo's history? How are we teaching future generations about what's happened up till now? The legacy land use and stuff like that, protecting landowners who want to stay and want to keep up their ranches and their farms, and not trying to push them out in the name of development or reaching some goal of having certain amount of businesses.
All right, thank you, Table 5. Let's remember, how many times as boards, committees, councils, how many times do we vote unanimously in one direction or the other? Not every time, right? And so if you keep that in mind, we might not agree with some of the things that are being said today. Feel free to write that down on your workbook and give us feedback. We want to hear that feedback, even things that are not consistent. I think what's being spoken at the tables is the general consensus of that table. But there may be some disagreements, and that's great. We welcome those disagreements. So we'll move on to table number 4.
We don't have much of a statement here to make. We generally favored option number 3 of the 4. Didn't care much for number 1. It's a lot of flowery words like revitalize and all that, but number 3 seemed to be the most logical and justified. I made a note to hopefully some way insert enhancing public health and safety into those words, but that's it.
All right. All right. Thank you. Table number 4. Anything else?
What's that?
There's just a continuation of your statement about, we're talking a lot about history, but the projects aren't necessarily indicating that. So if you're going to talk about the history, put the projects into place to back that up. That was what you were trying to communicate, correct?
All right. Great. All right. Table number 3.
All right, Cibolo, a city where residents can live comfortably in a self-sustaining economy with responsible growth that includes recreational activities for all. We kind of took that from option number 3. Moving on to the next ones. I'm going to pass it to Shane.
All right, so we took, what was it, the third one? 1, 2, yeah, the third and fourth goal, and we kind of restructured them a little bit to make it sound less global per se. So we restructured 3 to say promote a community environment which will preserve and attract new families and quality businesses in Cibolo. We felt that the way it was written, it was a little wordy and gives a lot of cause for confusion. And then number 4, we just kind of restructured a little bit by saying balance the growth of residential and commercial development. So focusing on commercial development rather than a bunch of homes all blocked up, that sort of thing. So just kind of given the propriety of that commercial environment.
Okay, I get the next one. Yep. And so the last one, where it says land use, we want to make sure that we're not how to say this other than discriminating against the businesses along the I-10 corridor. You know, that is it's growing. It's going to be 3 lanes on both sides of I-10 going east to west. And there's lots of accidents out there right now. So we need to make sure that we're addressing those issues to where we've got the businesses out there that we need for that. As far as mobility, we need connectivities. That's the one thing that we look for in the downtown business is connectivity. With connectivity, you've got to have sidewalks. So as far as mobility, you've got to either have trails or sidewalks to be able to get people where they need to go, so where they're not always just using their vehicles to get to and from places. Housing in neighborhoods, a lot of that's just the growth south of 78, which a lot of the council knows. I'm sure P&Z knows that we got a quilt work of land out there that we've got to work with. Some of it's ours, some of it's the county's. So community facilities, more ball fields, softball fields, baseball fields, soccer. You know, it has libraries, but we've got to have fields for our kids, for the growth of the kids. I-10, just making sure that we're building I-10 up responsibly. That's all we've got.
That's great. Thank you. That's great. Table number 2.
Oh, it's on. Okay.
Yeah, it's on. Okay. We're looking here at the visions and goals. Yeah. Okay. Okay. On option 1 there, one of the notes that I made on the thing is it refers to the small town Texas city of choice. Well, right off the bat, we're 36,000 plus. So we're beginning to inch our way out of the small town. And within the next 10 years, I suspect it's going to be inched out even further. So option number 1 for me wasn't a good choice on the whole thing. Oh, okay. Well, as far as number 2 goes, I happen to like that particular one anyway. Mixed use, old town, new town developments that we've got going on. So we're doing a pretty good job. We could do better, that's for sure. But we're definitely working our way through on option number 2. Option 3, once again, small town, jobs and businesses. The economy. We've got to start looking at the south of 78 on the economy. Right now, we've got San Antonio. If you get out there on 10, San Antonio comes streaming down all the way across 10. It just barely crosses into Guadalupe County at the Cibolo, and most of the development there has stopped. If you go in the opposite direction and get up to Seguin, most of the development is going on up there. So right now in the middle here, we're not developing as fast as I think we should. Number 4, cohesive. I can assure you that there's a lot of discussion about how to do this. And one of the things is from some of the folks that have got land out there, they want to be farmers. So a lot of this stuff that's being proposed right now might not fit with what they've got in mind. So you just want to keep that in mind. Any other comments, folks?
All right, very good. Thank you, table 2. Moving on to table 1.
Okay, so I think we found a lot of great aspects to every single option. So I'd like to propose the perfect 2, with borrowing a little bit from the other options just as well, right? The perfect 2. So about the 2, the majority of us on our table really enjoyed this. We enjoyed that it held fast to the old town nostalgia, right, with the new town flair, recognizing that we are developing. And we also enjoyed that it had mixed use development, honoring our agricultural, our rural areas, alongside bringing in new development and improving infrastructure. We also liked, from option 3, the fact that we want to retain that Texas charm. So as we're growing, we can still retain that just as well. And we, instead of booming economy, because I think someone else had mentioned like the wording on that seemed more, what was the word I think this table had mentioned? Yes, so we felt like flourishing might be a better word for a flourishing economy, because you couldn't really do booming and live comfortably. So we enjoyed that, as well as like option 4. We really enjoyed having that harmonious with nature, so really preserving those green spaces, a part of that mixed use just as well. So that was our perfect 2. I'll give it over to Mark.
Thank you very much, Norma. All right, so we did an action brainstorm on land use, and so the example was to take a look at the zoning and the non-annexation agreements for the properties along I-10. So we talked a lot about, as Dick Hetzel was saying earlier, as far as a lot of those property owners want to remain ag and continue to farm. And so we wanted to take a look at if there are any non-annexation agreements with those properties along I-10 that are currently in the ETJ, and then find out, what the status is on the majority of those properties, and then just do some, do some deed research on those, so that way we can see, what the future might hold for those particular properties if they were to be sold. If it would automatically annex into the city of Cibolo, and that would give us some more information as far as our vision for those particular properties in the future. And so that's pretty much it for land use. We did tackle a few more of these, but I'll go ahead and move on to the next table. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Activity 2 is in the books. Thank you so much. Let's remember that everyone in this room has a very important voice, not only your voice, but the people that you represent. And so it's really important for us to hear from you and for your direction to drive this process. We're really excited and thankful that you all have such great input at these activities. What we're going to do now, we are 5 minutes early for your break, so you get an extra 5 minutes. We're going to reconvene at 8:15. Please be back in your seats at 8:15. We've got snacks, water, drinks, restroom in the back. Please be back in 10 minutes. Thanks. All right, let's take a seat. We are 1 minute late. Let's take a seat, please. Thank you.
Just jump in. Okay. Just go for it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get us started talking about mobility. I look different than the gentleman up here a minute ago. I'm not Daniel. My name is Jake Gudekunst. I'm a transportation engineer and a planner with Kimley Horn. I always like to say that my topic's always the most fun because everyone loves their commute and thinks the traffic is amazing in every place we work. So we're going to talk a little bit about mobility. One of the things I wanted to highlight here on this front was as part of this process, we want to make sure that we're thinking about not just planning for land use, but also doing transportation at the same time. A lot of the times these things get done independently, and so they don't line up well. So for some corridors in town, you might have seen where the zoning might not match the type of roadway that's there, things like that. So we want to make sure that we're thinking about these things in tandem, how to move people between these kind of places with higher densities, different land uses, destinations around town. So real quick, I'm going to give a recap of a little bit of the engagement we've heard to date. There's a lot of stuff on the screen. I don't expect you to read it all, but some of the themes of things we've been hearing, some of the top comments we got were on improving and maintaining the existing roads was the top thing we heard about in Cibolo. People wanting to make downtown a destination, to improve sidewalks, trails, and other ways to get around besides driving, like walking and biking, and then also make better places to shop, dine out, recreate, have fun. Those were kind of some of the main things we heard. We heard a lot of other things on here too, but from that initial engagement, some of those things were the things that popped off. Some other things that we heard in the growth stories, expand FM 1103. We know that's been in progress for a while, but getting that road fixed and widened out to have more capacity as a main artery north-south in town from I-35. In addition to this, and I'll talk more about this in a second, about trying to prioritize connections between 35 and 10 in the city. So you can get all the way across town, north-south. A lot of roads either stop or end at 78 in the middle. So trying to get across the railroad, things like that. And then something we heard a lot about was focus on fixing the existing roads before focusing on trying to attract new development. Get the infrastructure up to a certain level of service before moving for the growth. and then trying to stay ahead and in alignment with infrastructure goals. Again, some of these things reiterated from the other ones, but some of the big takeaways we've heard were, again, trying to improve roadway capacities where it's needed on the arterials, increase the amount of roadway maintenance activities, try to get the roads maintained. One of the ones that I didn't hit on the other slides was improving streetscaping, especially downtown. What do we mean by streetscaping? It's what kind of aesthetics and types of landscapes are you using on the roads? Is there some sort of look and feel to the city that's not just concrete and grass, for example? Do you have trees, things like that? And then lastly, promoting safety. We've heard a lot about that from some of the previous activities tonight, but how do we promote public health and safety? We did have a meeting about 2 weeks ago with the city of Schertz, our neighbors, as well as Guadalupe County. We had a really good discussion about regional transportation, and some themes emerged from that discussion. One of the things that we talked about was, as both Schertz and Cibolo grow and continue to build out, especially going south, how do we create connections between the communities for travel, especially across Cibolo Creek, where it's a big, long, natural boundary between the two towns. But also, one of the things we also heard about was there's not a lot of money to spend on infrastructure and transportation. So people are kind of in, not just Cibolo, but Schertz as well, as kind of having to try to get money from folks like AMPO, the MPO, or TxDOT to help pay for stuff because transportation is super expensive. And it only got a lot worse in the last couple of years. In fact, transportation costs doubled in the last 5 years. I know we're all watching inflation, but that one was a pretty wild a number that we've been tracking in the industry. One thing that is pretty unique and different is Guadalupe County. They have a new county engineer about a year ago. They are working on trying to get higher and better facilities in the county as well with development. So as things develop over time, they are trying to get more capacity on their facilities that are out there today as a priority for them. And they're also finishing their own thoroughfare plan for roadways in the entire county. One of the things that was also discussed was investing in those north-south arterials in each city. What are those routes? A lot of y'all know them. They have an FM with the 4-digit number on them. Those are those larger facilities that convey things from 35 to 10. Then also just coordination of things in the south. How do we coordinate better with the county and with Schertz on getting east-west on the south side of town and not just rely on I-10 to do all that for us. Things like Lower Seguin Road. And then lastly, in both communities, there's been a lot of discussion and prioritization around trying to improve the crossings of the railroad on 78 in both towns. So that was some of the themes that emerged from those. But wanted to share that update with y'all. We have an activity. This time you get to do it by yourself. Everyone's going to have some sticker sheets sitting around the room. What this activity does is it does two things. One, it tells us from a transportation and mobility standpoint, what is your top priorities, but it's also an exercise in trade-offs. So I mentioned a minute ago, there are endless needs and not enough resources to accomplish those needs. So a lot of times we're making decisions, not just around mobility and transportation, but any infrastructure investment is how do we prioritize and pick and choose which things to prioritize. So you have 9 stickers, you only have 6 spots. How we're going to do this is the top of the pyramid would get, if we're going to weight these things out for like a weighting, the top of the pyramid is 3 points, the second row is 2 points, and the last row is 1 point each. So take that into consideration on how heavy we're weighting these different things. So 1, 2, and 3. Also totally acknowledge when we were printing the stickers, they're a little bit larger than the spaces. That's totally okay. Just make it into a pyramid structure so we can tell what the 1, 2, and 3 are, and we'll be good to go. You'll have folks at your tables being able to explain that, and then we'll also put the ones up on the screen. I'll go through the categories real quick. Kind of similar to some of the engagement we heard back from folks was getting the pedestrian and bike connectivity through things like shared use pass. That's what an SUP is. Shared use pass and trails, prioritizing safety, prioritizing maintenance was one we heard a lot about, building sidewalk connections where they don't exist or filling in gaps, improving traffic flow. The crossings one is for the railroad crossings in the creeks and rivers. Intersections is improving like bottlenecks at lights and intersections, improving connectivity around town, focusing on that, building new connections, and then streetscaping and beautification. Y'all get after it.
All right, as you complete your pyramid, we're going to ask you to discuss within your group your top three. And we want your facilitator, to write your top three on your flip chart, please. Let's get your top three written on your flip charts, please. Let's get your top three written onto your flip charts.
right, we're going to go ahead and start sharing. We're going to start with table 1 tonight. Table 1, if y'all have a spokesperson to go ahead and share what you came up with, why, and if y'all had any outliers in the group, if anybody kind of had something different at the top, feel free to share that.
Okay, so we chose, traffic flow was number 1 for us, safety coming in second, and maintenance coming in third. But basically, they all sort of go together, right? If you have safety, you'll have better intersections, you'll have better traffic flow. All of that, of course, encompasses sidewalks as well. And then, but in order to maintain, you have to have maintenance in order to have all of that. But safety, I think, and traffic flow and all of that goes together. Of course, the last things would be anything with streetscapes and, you know, that's the pretty stuff. But we got to take care of the safety, the roads, and everything first.
Awesome. Thank you all very much. We'll go ahead and go on to table 2 then. Yeah. All right.
For you, Cody. There you go, talking. All right, all right. I got bullied into this. Oh, sorry. All right, let me just take this thing off. I gotta make it easy. Okay, so we actually had several thoughts on what should be the first, second, and third position. But I think we all could agree with connectivity and traffic, and sort of the thought process is, you know, as far as the definition, when we prioritize connecting those gaps, right, and the byproduct of all those other issues, i.e. maintenance, traffic flow, intersection, safety, really addresses all those. Think about it. If you had a web of connectivity of roads, bike trails, and you had all these different alternative modes of transportation, then that would reduce the congestion in certain areas already, which by default would reduce the safety already because you don't got people running through red lights or whatever the case may be. Maintenance would be down because you don't have so many vehicles going on that road per day or whatever the case may be. And then the second was safety and maintenance. That was sort of interchangeable as far as the priority, I believe, as far as the table, as we discussed. We had some dissenting, which we had intersections with the colonel over here, but nevertheless, safety and maintenance was our number second and third priority.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing the.
Oh, thank you.
And thanks for sharing that outliers too. We want to hear about the other thoughts. So, all right, table number 3.
All right, we had some close calls here. At first, we were going back and forth on the safety and the maintenance and how that kind of goes together because these roads be dangerous out there. Watch yourselves. So the first one we got up there is actually maintenance, and then we go down to safety. And the next thing will be kind of both together as well as intersections and traffic flow. That's kind of where we came involved. I got 4, but they're so close, there could have been a tie.
You said intersections was one of your 4?
Yeah.
Do you want to elaborate on why that one was so high?
Well, it goes back with traffic flow. Traffic flow, you know, keeping it moving, keeping, you know, walkways and traffic moving, you know, because we got places to be, things to do.
Awesome. Thank you. Got table 4?
No. All right, everybody, it's on. Oh, did you turn it off? Oh, it's still on. Okay. So our top 3 overall, number 1 was safety, number 2 was maintenance, and number 3 was sidewalks. And that's just like how the majority of our folks, that's how we came up. That's it. Do you want more?
Does anybody in the sidewalks camp want to share why that one?
I did talk about connectivity. That's important to me. But I just feel like we have Cibolo's kind of spread out, and there's not always an easy way. And I think Marcus touched on it. There's not an easy way to get from point A to B sometimes. Like, there's just like no straight way. You've got to go down to the highway, turn around, come back up. So more connectivity, I think, would make our traffic flow better. We wouldn't have people trying to wiggle around so much. So yeah, but safety was number 1 overall for our group.
And then for the sidewalks, is someone sharing about sidewalks that had that high on there?
Sidewalks, we had a couple. Sidewalks was like most of us put sidewalks in the 3rd row, so that was kind of like sidewalks were important. I also talked about that as someone who exercises outside. If I'm going to be running or walking, I like to have sidewalks. So for safety purposes, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, group 5, last but not least.
So we had kind of clumps that were together. I asked them, they don't want to speak. Oh. Yeah. I'm not the boss. So our top 2 were maintenance and safety. Maintenance won out by 1 point. And for me, maintenance, not only are our roads falling apart, but we have the opportunity to try to prevent to save money. If you maintain a road now, then you don't have to turn around and fix it in a few years for several $1 million if you can fix it now for a couple $100,000. It's still a lot of money, still not money that we have just like laying around, but it will help us save money down the road. So that needs to be a priority, because if you do that, you maintain the roads, you're saving that money, you can spend that money on all these other things. Second would be safety. We felt that safety kind of tied into a lot of it. Safety ties into the crossing, safety ties into sidewalks, it ties into the intersections, but safety got 1 point less than maintenance. Our next 3 were all 1 point apart from each other, and that was crossings, traffic flow, and connectivity. Those 3 were all within a point of each other. Traffic flow was, just for full disclosure, was not on my list. I feel like Cibolo is going to be like I-35, where they get done with it and they just to turn back around and add another lane. Like, we're going to just be in constant perpetual motion, and we're never going to fully address traffic. It's just not going to happen as we're growing. But that was one of the higher ones. Crossings are important as well. We've got a lot of low water crossings, and then the railroad crossing is causing a lot of safety issues when you can't get across the railroad crossing because a truck got stuck or hit or whatever. That becomes an issue for the whole city. That's it. The other ones that were on our list were streetscaping, sidewalks, trails, and intersections, but they were way lower than the other ones. If we had those on our list, those were on the 3rd row. So while they're important, those didn't get nearly as many.
Awesome. Well, thank y'all for the feedback on that. That's going to help us as we kind of look through specific goals and setting out the transportation plan. We also left copies of the current, I forgot to tell this, the current thoroughfare plan that's been adopted previously. We're going to be looking at making updates to that based on our regional coordination with other partners and looking how this ties together with land use, which is a good dovetail for Daniel to then start talking about our last topic of the night, which we're going to start a little bit early, I think, which will hopefully help future land use.
Awesome. Thank you. Congratulations. We've made it to activity number 4. So this is our last activity for the day. So we ask that you give it an equal amount of energy as you did the others, or even more if you have it. Get another cookie if you need it for a good sugar rush. The next segment is on future land use. What I have here in front of me is a copy of the future land use and thoroughfare map that we adopted and by we I mean you all in 2022. So it's the most recent future land use map of the city. So again, we have those for reference as we work through this exercise. Similar to the I-10 corridor exercise, we really do have to think about these land uses as areas that have that as their predominant use. It doesn't mean that they're limited just to, as an example, commercial. So the red isn't just commercial, but predominantly it's commercial. Predominantly, that's what the district is all about, the area is all about. So again, we'll take a look at the future land use for both the city and the ETJ. So we're looking community-wide here. At the last public engagement event, we had 3 growth stories or growth scenarios. Again, this stuff's in your packet if you wanted to kind of review. But we have 3 growth stories that we put forward and got feedback for. The first growth story is a focus on expanding single-family development with new roadway connections and infrastructure, complete neighborhoods, low-density retail, expansion of new parks and trails, Growth story B is high density along corridors, a mix of housing types, moderate expansion of utilities and infrastructure, large emphasis on the IH-10 corridor as the economic driver. And then growth story C is maximizing existing land use, the strongest emphasis on growing downtown, high density in strategic areas, mixed use, and enhancements of existing roadways. If you want to kind of think about the three growth stories in different ways, the first growth story is more in line with the current trend of this future land use plan, the future land use map. The second one is more about maximizing development along corridors in a more linear fashion. And the third one is more about centers. It's more of a centric type development pattern. So today, you're going to take the maps that you're given, the large maps. These maps represent the current land use distribution of your community as it stands today. Okay? So the current land use as it stands today. And what we're going to do is we're going to take your future land use plan as a starting point. It's kind of our guiding star as far as how much the percentage of each category. So for example, commercial represents, and I'm throwing a number out, 15% of your community. Downtown represents 5% of your community, okay? We're going to take those colors and distribute them onto your land use map that's on your table. So everyone's going to get stickers, and those stickers are aligned to the different categories of the future land use plan. And what we want to do is we want to evaluate future land use as far as three scenarios are concerned. Again, the first scenario has to do more in line with what the current trend of development is. So what you're going to do is take your stickers and you're going to discuss between your groups and evaluate what are the current development patterns in your community. You're going to take the red and say, okay, currently commercial is happening in these areas, and you're going to place your stickers where you think that's appropriate. The second map, and we'll give you the second map, will be along with growth story B, which is looking at corridors. What if the development in your community, instead of growing the way it's growing now, really focus development along those corridors? I-10, 78, some of our north-south corridors. What if our commercial development pattern followed a more linear pattern? Take those same stickers, the same amount of stickers, and this time think about it in a more linear fashion. Place your stickers accordingly. And then finally, the last scenario would be in a more nodal pattern, right? In a more centric pattern. Think about centers, such as downtown. That's easy to kind of think about. What other centers are there? What other places are there in Cibolo, or what other places could there be? And then focus your distribution of your stickers on those areas accordingly. So take a few minutes, discuss the current trend as a group. How is Cibolo growing currently? What are the current distributions of land use? And what we're going to do is project those out into the future 30 years by placing all of our stickers on the first trend, which is current conditions, how we're currently growing. What's interesting is what we're going to do is kind of turn this around, and we'll see how in line we are with our perception of how things are currently growing versus how we're doing on trying to accomplish this plan. So the first one is the current trend. Let's distribute our stickers accordingly. Where are the current development patterns happening? Where's our current residential? Where's our current retail? Current commercial? Where's that growing? And where's that headed in the future? We'll have about 8 minutes per each scenario. Quick thing, as we're distributing our stickers in the appropriate places, let's keep in mind that we're answering the question, how much is the appropriate amount? Is your commercial going to be 2,000 feet deep along a corridor, Or is it more appropriate to be 300 feet along a corridor? So I know we're eyeballing it, but let's kind of keep in mind the actual depth, the width, and the quantity in certain areas. Thanks. Please keep in mind the definition for your land use categories are in your workbook. So if you need those for reference, please reference your workbook for the definition of the different colors. Thank you. Okay, if you haven't moved on to your second scenario, now's the time to move on to your second scenario. We're going to try to get all of our stickers on the map. If you can, get all your stickers on the map. But definitely focus on what needs to happen. What are the most key things that need to happen? Thank you.
All right, we still have a little bit of time. If you want to make sure that you're getting all your stickers on the boards, that'll be great.
Doing good on time. All right, we're getting ready to wrap up. Time to place your remaining dots onto the maps.
why your table is just going.
I love it. I feel like a teacher.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, guys. No, my table is. Funny thing is, each single one of them. Mine is great. Like one of them was like, no, I don't want that there because it's near my house. And they were all like, oh, you're not going to be not in my backyard. They called him out on it.
Nice,
And
nice.
then he was laughing. He's like, you're right. I was like, this is so cute.
This is great.
And they're all up. They're all doing
They're all,
it.
yeah, like they're all into it.
Yeah. They're so cute. I love my table.
All right, we're going to bring this to a close. If everyone can make their final comments and stickers, we're going to have a little bit of discussion before we start talking. Yeah. All right, pencils down. Turn in your tests. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We're all set. We're going to have some more time for discussion. Let's have a seat. All right, I want to thank you so much for all of your participation here tonight. We finished activity number 4. We are going to discuss it, but we have finished our activity. Let's take a seat. Let's take a seat. I know everyone's passionate about future land use planning. Let's take a seat. Please keep in mind this is an iterative process, meaning that we are going to deal with future land use planning in the future. So this isn't our only crack at it. We're doing the first exercise for land use planning today. There will be more in the future. So thank you for your input. We're going to have to stop the discussion here. Let's discuss a couple things that we've noticed as we walk around. A couple takeaways just as a group. How many of you, I have a question, how many of you found that it was difficult to distribute your stickers in the same way between the 3 types of maps? How many of us found that it was difficult? It was difficult. All right. How many of you put all of your stickers on all of the maps? Okay. All right. How many of you wrote extra information on the maps? Thank you for doing that. How many of you felt that there were land use categories that were not represented with the stickers that you were putting down? So we want to hear what those categories are. Okay. Now let's recap what we did. We took the current land use map from today, and we took stickers that were based on the distribution of your future land use map. As an example, 15% of this map is red, and so we gave you 15% in stickers to put on the 3 scenarios, okay? That's our starting point. So, ultimately, when we look at development from the standpoint of the current trend versus in a corridor fashion where we take advantage of our development opportunities along our corridors versus when we take advantage of our development opportunities in nodes in certain areas, the development patterns will have a pretty big impact on the number, on the final number, on the 15%. It won't be 15% between all 3 maps. There are implications that we'll be studying now based on the input that you all have given on these maps. If you think about it this way, the current trend is for lots of commercial and industrial along I-10, according to this map. In the future, if we look at it from a nodal development, which is kind of where we were headed with the I-10 corridor, there are more things that are happening in this area, in the I-10 area. So we're looking at a different distribution of numbers, a different percentage breakdown. That's going to have an implication on your final build-out population. It's going to have implications on your infrastructure and how we grow infrastructure and where we focus our resources, right? Because we talked about limited resources today. And how do we focus on what's important? And so, again, thoroughfare planning is something that we want to do at the same time because we want to take good advantage of our resources. So future land use planning, thoroughfare planning, they all go hand in hand. So we're very appreciative of all the feedback you had today. What we're going to do is we're going to go around the room one more time, and we're going to talk a couple takeaways, a couple highlights on your three scenarios, your three growth scenarios. And we want to hear from you, what were some of the key things? What were some of the issues? What were some of the categories that were missing? What did you wish you had that you didn't have on you? What are some things that even today we don't want to keep doing? What's our current trend? But there's some things we want to kind of change 30 years out, even if we continue what we're doing. So if you could just go around the room and discuss. I think this last time we'll go back this way. So we're going to start again at table 5. Key takeaways. Please don't be shy.
Okay, me again. I know, shocking. So one of the things we were really frustrated with was the lack of green stickers for the green space. There's a lot of floodplains, specifically south of 78, that will need to have green areas around them. You cannot mitigate that much water. It's just not going to happen. So we need to plan for that and have that on our thing. So we actually wrote on some of the yellows green. We wrote the word green and put it on there. There were a lot more yellows than we wanted. There were a lot of housing developments already there and in progress. So we didn't use all of our green. We also weren't super thrilled with mixed use developments. It's kind of vague, so we didn't like that. For the corridor plan, we basically wrote in exactly what we had done on the first assignment activity with our corridor plan and the different districts that we wanted to see. We added in a lot of the larger or estate, what do they call it, estate something? Estates south of 78 and then mixed in south of Green Valley where we don't have developments currently there. A big concern that we discussed but we didn't really have a sticker for was the multifamily right by Buffalo Crossing. There's like 4 or 5 different multifamily developments planned through PUDs or through multifamily in our current zoning. That's alarming. Those roads cannot handle it. And if we're talking about future land use and trying to stick to major roads and things like that, that's going to be a nightmare. Did I miss anything else? Old Town being walkable and mixing in the neighborhood commercial there and really having a plan for what that means, mixing the commercial and the residential. It's going to be slow growth. We know that there will likely be commercial mixed with the residential there, even more than what we have now. But we have to have a real plan for it to try to balance that because it's not fair to the businesses that go in if we set them up for failure and for constant clashing with residents, and it's not fair to residents to have something pop in their backyard that they weren't expecting. So having a real clear plan for those areas specifically where commercial is abutting residential. And that's all over town, not just Old Town, but right now it's Old Town that's kind of mostly affected. Anything else? No.
Excellent, excellent. So you can kind of see how, let's just talk about that green, not too much green on your current future land use map, right? So wanting to see more of that, wanting to see less yellow potentially, and many other things. Downtown being walkable, trying to deal with the conflict that's created between commercial and residential downtown. These are some key issues that we want to address in our future land use plan, really in our preferred scenario, right? So from here, what do? We kind of fold that information over and start heading in a preferred direction, okay? But we really want to see where these three different development patterns, pull us. Where do they take us? So we'll continue to see that develop into the future, okay? Thank you. Table 4.
We were frustrated that we don't have conservation districts along the floodplain. We know that developers want to develop a number of units, and we want to preserve the floodplain, and you didn't have that. And then
Can you define what you mean again for everyone to hear, by conservation district? What does that mean?
a conservation district allows 50% of the land to stay open. So the lots are very small or the very dense housing units with less road miles, less impervious coverage, or it's all in one area.
Gotcha.
So that's a conservation district. And then the other, should I talk about the college along the I-10 corridor? Okay. So we really wanted to look at the I-10 corridor as a place where we could have center type of development, like a college, like a medical complex, like a nodes, cultural center, so we could go see Fiddler on the Roof. And I think that's it, right? That's pretty much it. That's it.
Okay, great. No, let's think about the I-10 corridor. When you hear the word corridor, you think of a linear corridor, right? But I think what we're seeing emerge is that our I-10 corridor isn't just a linear corridor. We, in order to take the best advantage of our future opportunities, really see potential for there to be centers located throughout the corridor. So it really has an impact. Again, it's not just all red and purple. It has an impact on the way that we're going to grow. Again, we're going to go back and check that with the market and see what opportunities are there out there for those centers. And what does that mean? We talked about a hospital district in one of the groups. Well, what does that mean? It's not just hospital. It's hospital, medical, supporting uses, the supporting residential that supports those uses. And so you kind of see the impact that looking at it from that standpoint will have in the I-10 corridor. All right, excellent feedback.
That is the the last time you all did this master plan, the threat and the weakness was that we didn't have the infrastructure. Guess what? We still don't. So it's nice to draw these pretty pictures, but we really need to focus on the work that needs to be done in order to put these dreams or aspirations out there, because that's why nothing's happened.
Absolutely. And so this is twofold, right? We had two exercises. We had the land use exercise to identify kind of what we're talking about. We also had the exercise of creating actions that will support that. And we had the I-10 corridor. If you remember in your workbook, we had the I-10 corridor as one of those key topics. So if you left it blank, now's the time to go back in your workbook. Make sure you write that action in there. We get infrastructure in to align with the future development of the area. Yes. Thank you. All right, we're going to go on to group number 3.
I tried to give it up. Okay. So for ours, we used every single dot that we had. There was no dots unused. That's the current trend.
The maps are much heavier.
They're much heavier because of the dots. So that's current trend that shows what's going on. We'll go to the next one. Because we identified all those. I guess the last one. That's fine. We'll make it quick. We won't be here all night. We used every dot here too. We know that there's high density development that's in our ETJ that's growing there. We'll keep it out there because we know that we can't really do anything about it. As Ms. Latimer said, you know, we'd like to see these dots here. I didn't know that we could add, but obviously medical center somewhere along the I-10 corridor or even 78 corridor would be fine. But the big thing is not having infrastructure that aligns with what we need for down here between 78 and I-10 is our big issue. But that's why we put the estates, meaning they're the larger lots. That's what we'd like to see. That's why we put a whole lot of those in this area, because with the 1 acre lots, you can use septic, so they could stay those larger lots. We don't have to worry about that type of infrastructure. There's water down there, we know, because Green Valley already supplies. But that's our biggest concern, is trying to make sure that we do get the infrastructure so we can build the stuff we need down here along 10, and of course along 78 and 1103.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, building downtown up, I guess we've got to, obviously you can see we put the high density or the low density residential back where it's at. But putting in some of these light industrial and along the 78 where we used to have, there's now the, what's that? The RV spot. It used to be Timber Tech, which was a light industrial. But we've still got lots of space along 78 that we could still use and utilize for that. Even for further down by Venado Crossing, you know, we'd like to see maybe a McCoy's, Home Depot, Lowe's. I don't know that either one of those will come in, but maybe a McCoy's. They are a Texas-based. They're from Texas, and they're Texas-based. So, well, Texas, but yes. And have them come in and have a something like that along 78. So.
Excellent. Thank you. Very good. All right, we're going to go next to table 2.
Most of the time we spent talking about how to keep the infill SF4, so.
Does it matter which one you want me to do first?
Doesn't matter.
Just go ahead.
It's on you.
What's that, existing? Yeah, okay. We've talked about existing. Everybody knows about existing, right? Oh.
You want to do corridor?
Let's do the corridor, yeah. Where's that at?
That corridor he has in his hand.
You don't get the corridor. We got it under control.
Perfect. I believe in you. Yep.
What? Is it because we don't have any hair? They're laughing at us, or what? All right. So along the corridor, what we're trying to do is keep 1103 sort of commercialized, light residential commercial. Get some estates out here as close to the ETJ as we can, and then we're going to get messed over there anyway. And then state residential down there, and then we've got more industrial down on I-10. Try to industrialize I-10 and keep some light industrial, heavy industrial down I-10 corridors, right? Is that what we talked about? What else? This is the next one? Thanks. All right, so 78 is kind of a, we'd like to do more there, but it's seemingly unrealistic because it's a road that we don't have any control over. We should know this from 1103. That hasn't worked out very well for us, right? We've built up, and we still don't have a road that was supposed to have been built 2 years ago. So even 25 years out, it's a little bit of a struggle to think we're going to get much out of 78. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but we didn't do a whole lot down there because it seems very unrealistic to me. So we kept some light light commercial here along 1103, where still there's some big plots of C1 ground that maybe we need to look at that and say, are those really C1? And maybe they're not. Maybe they need to be something else. We just, long and deep land has not been very beneficial so far. Nobody wants it. So most of this has just been some SF down here, single family homes, and what was green? I forgot what was green one.
Green space.
Oh yeah, just green space. That makes sense. Just parks, yeah. It's more light, and then again, industrial down here in the I-10 corridor with some more community residential apartment type stuff towards the end of the city limits down on I-10, eastbound. Okay, is that it? That's all?
What's the third one?
Oh, we did that. We're good.
Okay.
All right, very concise. Thank you. All right, we're going to end with group one.
No, I don't need anybody to hold the map. I'm good.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm good. So all the other maps really don't matter. This is one we're going to go with right here. I'm just going to end and say everything that everybody already said is already in our maps. Y'all have a good evening.
Let's get another speaker from group one.
No, it's okay.
You can do it.
I'm really proud of my group, which is why I want them to get the credit that they deserve, because they were all so active, talked so well, and were so collaborative, and you guys should share your work. So the first one, I really want to talk about the 2 and 3, because we did it a little bit different. Ignacio, can you go to the next one? This one. So yeah, our group identified some nodes where they felt were important areas in Cibolo. Could you guys elaborate on some of these?
Okay, so some of these nodes down on I-10, we've got some commercial areas similar to the I-10 corridor plan that you came up with, and we also have industrial areas over there on I-10. So the vision there is to have a mix of commercial and industrial. So the commercial would be closer to Hakerville, where it would be something similar to Creekside that you see over in New Braunfels, where we could have, big box retail along I-10, as well as restaurants, pad sites, hotels, things like that. And then having industrial over nearby the existing factory, where we could also have other factories. Also along 78, we did want to concentrate on a little bit more pad sites, retail over there, sit-down restaurants on 78. Also on 1103, we saw some opportunities for some more retail on 1103, and we also have more retail, of course, over by Walmart. And then at the very top, you'll see a opportunity, green zone, opportunity for a park over by Warbler Woods. Okay, yeah, this one's a little bit more detailed. This is where we tried to identify the thoroughfares, and so we highlighted 1103, Cibolo Valley Drive, 78, Hakerville Road, and we looked at those as opportunity zones along those corridors in order to have, similar to the map that Joel presented, in between 78 and Country Road, Lower Seguin Road, this would be the large lots. And then down here, you would have more of the traditional type of housing, because if we're going to have a bunch of commercial right here, they're going to need customers. And then down here, of course, the continued theme of having a few housing over here, not necessarily right off the highway, because you don't want to jam housing right next to the interstate, because you're going to want to come back, at least 5 football fields or more, because you want to reserve the interstate, the service roads on both sides of I-10 for commercial or industrial. And similar activity along 78, more commercial opportunity. Also, what else? Just very similar to what others have done. But yeah, but highlighting some areas for the large lot communities. That's it for that map. All right, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you all. Really appreciate all of your feedback. Before we go any further, I want to make sure that I do this. So let's pass our workbooks to the middle of the table, if we can. Everyone put your workbook in the middle of the table. So make sure you don't walk out with it. We might have Zeke, waiting at the door, making sure you don't take one. Thanks again for your input. What we're going to do is we'll pass it over to Aaron for next steps. And want to thank you again for all of your hard work tonight. We covered a ton of information. You'll be able to see that. We're going to scan everything, put it up on the website for the community to also see. And then we're going to analyze that information and bring it back to you. But I'll pass it to Aaron. Thanks again for your time.
All right. So it looks like we've reached everybody's favorite moment, which is the last slide. So what we're going to do is we're going to get with Kimley Horn. They're going to incorporate this feedback from today's meeting, and then they're going to finalize all these different outputs that we got from tonight's meeting. So we have some upcoming meetings in terms of community-sponsored events. Those would be marked here. What we'll also do is for our MPAC members, we are going to have a tentative meeting scheduled for November the 2nd. So yeah, go ahead and put that on your calendars. Aside from that, I think that's ooh, okay. Yes, tentative. So we'll yeah, it'll be a Thursday. So we'll go back to the drawing board on that. Yeah. Yeah. Hey. We'll plan around y'all's schedule. Because we don't have a meeting without y'all. Yeah. But no, thank y'all for coming out. I know y'all hear this often, but we can't thank y'all enough for your time. It was a great turnout. And yeah, go ahead and give yourselves a round of applause because y'all did great. All right. Y'all have a good evening.
Okay, so for City Council, motion to adjourn. All in favor?